AITA for refusing to pay my step-siblings' college. So this is messy, and my whole family is divided right now. I'm honestly still trying to process it myself because I never thought something so generous, something I thought came from love, would end up becoming the very thing ripping us apart. For background, I'm a 29-year-old guy, the oldest kid in my family by quite a bit. My parents divorced when I was 12. It wasn't the ugliest divorce in history, but it wasn't friendly either. I remember vividly the day my dad sat us down in the living room, hands clasped so tightly they looked white, and told us that things weren't working out with Mom. I didn't fully get it then, but I knew it meant he wasn't coming home anymore. After the split, my mom basically became everything: provider, caregiver, teacher, chauffeur. She worked her ass off just to keep food on the table and the lights on. I was old enough to see it. I was old enough to hear her crying quietly at night when she thought we were asleep. My little sister, 22F now, but just a kid back then, would sometimes crawl into bed with her, and my little brother, now 19M, was so small he barely understood what was happening. I stepped up because I had to. It wasn't heroic or anything, it was survival. I cooked ramen, I babysat, I cleaned. I got my first under-the-table job at 14, washing dishes at this greasy little diner 2 blocks away. The owner knew my mom and turned a blind eye to my age. Every dollar I made went to groceries or helping with bills. By the time I hit high school, I was balancing school, sports, and part-time work. But here's the thing, I was good at school. Like really good. Maybe it was spite, maybe it was a survival instinct, but I buried myself in academics. I had this obsession with the idea that if I worked hard enough, I could dig us out of the mess we were in. I graduated with a full-ride scholarship. When I tell you my mom cried the day I got that acceptance letter, I mean sobbed. She hugged me so tightly I could feel her shoulders shaking. That scholarship wasn't just for me. It was a lifeline for the whole family. College wasn't easy. I worked multiple jobs, tutoring, waiting tables, summer internships. I hustled nonstop because I knew every penny mattered. But when I graduated, I was debt-free. That's rare these days, right? Everyone I knew was drowning in loans, but I had this strange advantage. While other people were paying off tens of thousands in debt, I was able to start saving, investing, planning. I got into a high-paying field right out of school, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was building. I didn't live extravagantly. I wasn't out here buying fancy cars or designer clothes. I just saved. And as the years went on, those savings grew. Here's where things get important. When my siblings were in high school, I sat them down. I remember the exact night. We were in the kitchen. Mom was making spaghetti, cheap but filling, our family classic, and my sister was stressing about whether she'd even be able to afford college. She was talking about community college, financial aid, loans. Her voice cracked when she said she didn't want to be a burden. That broke me. She was 16 and already thinking of herself as a burden. So I told them, her and my little brother, that if they worked hard in school, if they got into college, I'd cover tuition. Not loans. Not, I'll help a little. I would take care of it. I said it in front of my mom and she froze. Then she started crying, like full-on tears rolling down her cheeks, because she knew what a difference that would make. I meant it with every fiber of my being. Fast forward. My sister got into a great school, and I've been paying for her tuition. She's now in her last year, thriving. My brother just got his acceptance letter, and I've already set aside enough for him, too. It hasn't been easy. Tuition is no joke, but I planned for this. I invested, I budgeted, I cut corners in my own life so they could have opportunities one didn't. Watching my sister flourish, seeing her confidence grow, it made every sacrifice worth it. Now here's where the messy part comes in. My dad remarried about 5 years ago. His new wife, let's call her Diane, has 2 kids of her own, a 16-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. I've always been civil with them, but we're not close. I didn't grow up with them. We don't have that sibling bond. We're more like polite acquaintances who happen to share some family gatherings. First, I thought everything was fine. I thought I could just keep my head down, focus on my siblings, and everyone would go about their business. But lately, that fine has turned into something else. Something ugly. Because apparently my promise, the one I made to my siblings, the one I've worked my entire adult life to fulfill, is now being twisted into something else entirely. And I don't know how to even begin to explain the chaos that's come from it. What started as me stepping up for my siblings has now spiraled into accusations, guilt-tripping, and family politics I never imagined I'd be dragged into. My dad and his new family have opinions, loud ones, about what I owe. And the worst part? My siblings, my mom, and I are caught in the middle of a storm I didn't see coming. Last weekend, we were all at my dad's house for a barbecue. It was supposed to be this casual family thing, burgers, hot dogs, some cold beers, the usual small talk. I'll be honest, I wasn't super excited to go. I love my dad, but things have been complicated since his remarriage. I always feel like a guest in his new life, like I'm on the outside looking in. His wife, Diane, is polite enough most of the time, but she has this way of speaking that makes me feel like I'm being sized up. You know that subtle judgment you can't quite put your finger on, but you feel it in your bones? Yeah, that's Diane. Anyway, I showed up with my sister and brother. My mom wasn't invited, of course. Dad was in his element, manning the grill, wearing one of those kiss the cook aprons like he was auditioning for a sitcom. His stepkids were in the backyard too, lounging around with their phones, occasionally tossing a frisbee. It was fine. Awkward, but fine. We sat down to eat, paper plates loaded with food, and for a while it was just casual chatter. Weather, sports, my sister's classes, my brother's excitement about starting college. And then Diane, God, I'll never forget this, leaned back in her chair, fork dangling from her hand, and said with this little laugh, "Well, luckily we don't have to worry too much about the cost of college. Since OP has been so generous with his siblings, I'm sure he'll do the same for our two when the time comes." The way she said it, light-hearted, but with this undercurrent of assumption, made my stomach drop. I froze. My sister literally choked on her drink. My brother looked at me like, what the hell did she just say? I forced a laugh, awkward and thin, and said, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I promised my siblings I'd help them, but that's it. Silence. Diane blinked like I had just slapped her. She actually set her fork down and stared at me. Wait, what do you mean that's it? You've been helping your sister. You've already set aside money for your brother. Why wouldn't you do the same for Lily and Josh? Those are her kids, by the way. I felt this heat creeping up the back of my neck. I said slowly because I wanted to be clear, because I never promised them anything. They're not my responsibility. I promised my siblings because we grew up together, struggling. I stepped in because I know firsthand how hard it was. But I've known your kids for 5 years. They have their own dad. That's when my dad jumped in, and his voice carried that dangerous, patronizing calm he gets when he's about to lecture me. Come on, son. You've been blessed. Don't you think it's only fair to treat all the kids equally? They're your family too. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. I said, flatly, they're not my siblings. They're your stepkids. And again, they have a father. I never made them a promise. I made one to the people who shared those nights eating ramen by candlelight because the power got shut off. That's not something Lily or Josh went through with me. That's not their story. The air got thick. I could feel my sister shifting uncomfortably beside me, my brother staring at his plate. Diane's face turned this blotchy red, her mouth twitching like she was holding back a full-blown explosion. Then she snapped. So you're saying my kids don't matter? That they're less deserving? Do you have any idea how entitled and selfish that sounds? I was floored. Selfish? For paying tens of thousands of dollars so my siblings wouldn't drown in debt? For sacrificing years of my own financial comfort to keep my promise? Before I could even respond, my dad piled on. It's not about promises. It's about fairness. You can't pick and choose which kids are worthy of your support. You're in a position to help, and that means all of them. Or don't you see Lily and Josh's family? I swear to God, in that moment I wanted to flip the table, but I didn't. I just sat there, my appetite gone, the smell of grilled meat suddenly making me nauseous. I said carefully, don't twist this. I love that you've found happiness, Dad. I'm glad Lily and Josh are in your life, but they're not my responsibility. I'm not their parent. I'm not their provider. I didn't sign up for that role, and I won't be guilt-tripped into it. And that's when the mood soured beyond repair. The rest of the barbecue was painfully tense. Diane sulked, her kids avoided eye contact, and my dad gave me this cold, disappointed look like I'd failed some unspoken test. My sister and brother were whispering to me under their breath, telling me not to back down, but I felt like I was walking a tightrope over fire. When we finally left, my sister muttered, "That was insane." And my brother said, "They're out of their minds if they think you're paying for them too." I wish that was the end of it. I wish it was just one awkward barbecue. But oh no, that was only the beginning. Because what happened next turned this from an uncomfortable misunderstanding into an all-out war. After that barbecue, Diane didn't just drop it. She escalated. Suddenly, it wasn't just a family disagreement, it was a campaign. She started calling me, messaging me, even rallying my dad's relatives to her side. And what she said about me behind my back. It was nuclear. That night, after the barbecue, I got a call from my dad. My phone lit up around 10:30 p.m., and I just knew, it wasn't going to be good. I almost didn't answer. My sister was still at my place, venting about how insane Diane had been, and my brother was scrolling through his phone with this permanent scowl on his face. I didn't want to ruin the little bit of calm we'd managed to reclaim after leaving that disaster of a family gathering. But it was my dad, and ignoring him would only make it worse. So I picked up. His voice was clipped, already raised, no hello or how are you? Just straight to, "I cannot believe the way you embarrassed me and Diane tonight. What the hell were you thinking?" I sat back on my couch, my jaw tightening. "Embarrassed you? All I did was correct a misunderstanding. I'm not paying for Diane's kids, Dad. I never said I would." He didn't even let me finish. "Don't play dumb. You basically announced to everyone that Lily and Josh don't matter. Do you understand how cruel that sounded? You're drawing lines in this family, punishing them for not being biologically related to you." That word, punishing, made my blood boil. I bit back the first 10 things I wanted to say and tried to keep my voice calm. Punishing them? Dad, when I was 18, applying to colleges, I begged you for help with application fees. Do you remember what you said? Silence on his end, just his breathing through the phone. I pressed on, my voice shaking now. Not from fear, but from the flood of old anger rising up. You told me I needed to figure it out myself. That was the year you bought that shiny new car. The year you went to Cancun with your girlfriend, now wife, while Mom was scraping together every cent she had. Do you know who actually paid those application fees? Mom. She used her tax refund. That's how I even got my shot at college. My chest was pounding. My sister glanced at me nervously, mouthing, "You okay?" I waved her off. I took a breath and said, clear as day, "I'm not responsible for the choices you made back then, and I'm not responsible for the choices you're making now. I love my siblings. I made them a commitment and I'm following through. That's where my responsibility ends." The line went quiet for a beat. Then my dad's voice came back, low and sharp. "You are so selfish. You are so damn ungrateful. Everything you have, you think you built that all on your own? You think you'd be where you are without me? Without this family?" I actually laughed, bitter and humorless. "Without you? Dad, you left Mom to carry the weight of everything. She is the reason I am who I am. She is the reason I even had the chance to make something of myself. Don't rewrite history now just because you feel guilty." That's when he dropped the nuclear line. "If you don't help them, if you don't step up for Lily and Josh, then don't bother coming around anymore." My stomach dropped, but not out of shock. Out of recognition. I've heard variations of that threat my whole life, whenever I dared to push back on him. The conditional love. The way he tries to leverage family as a bargaining chip. I closed my eyes, took a breath, and said quietly, "If that's how you feel, then I guess I won't be coming around anymore." For a second, he didn't respond. Then he scoffed, muttered something about me flaunting my money, and hung up, just like that. No goodbye, no hesitation. I sat there with the phone still pressed to my ear, staring into nothing. My sister's eyes were wide, my brother's face twisted in disgust. Did he really say that? my sister whispered. Yeah, I said. My voice cracked, but I forced myself to keep it steady. He did, and here's the part that's been eating at me ever since. A piece of me actually feels relieved, like I've been holding on to this hope that maybe, just maybe, my dad would someday show up for me. For us, the way I always needed him to. And now, the mask is off. He's made his stance crystal clear. But another part of me feels this deep ache, like I'm mourning someone who's still alive. Because even though I know I'm right, even though I know I'm not being selfish, I still hear his words echoing in my head. Ungrateful, selfish, don't bother coming around anymore. And Diane? Oh, she didn't stay quiet after this. If anything, she doubled down. Because the next morning, I woke up to texts and voicemails that made my blood run cold. Diane had started calling around, spinning the story, twisting the narrative, painting me as the heartless, selfish stepbrother who abandoned family. And she wasn't just telling my dad's side of the family. She was reaching everyone. The smear campaign had begun. 2 days later, things hit the breaking point. I was at work, trying to keep my head down and pretend like life was normal, when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Facebook Messenger. I saw Diane's name and immediately felt my stomach twist. Part of me wanted to ignore it, just hit delete, pretend it didn't exist. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, won out. It was a novel, paragraph after paragraph, written like some passive-aggressive essay, dripping with faux concern and moral superiority. I'll spare you the fluff and give you the highlights, because I swear I can still hear her voice in every line. I was creating resentment in the family. I was playing favorites and showing blatant disregard for her kids. I was dooming Lily and Josh to crippling debt when I could easily prevent it. And the final blow, the line she ended with, "Real family doesn't draw lines. Real family supports each other equally." I stared at the message for a long time, my hands shaking. My chest was tight, my ears ringing. I could practically feel my blood pressure climbing. That was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Because here's the thing. I had tried to be polite. At the barbecue, I was calm. On the phone with my dad, I was direct but not cruel. But this wasn't a conversation. This was an attack. This was Diane trying to rewrite the narrative and guilt me into submission. And I snapped. I wrote back, no fluff, no sugarcoating. I never offered to pay for your kids. They have another parent who should be contributing to their education. My money is mine to use as I see fit. And finally, the one that cut through everything. Real family keeps their promises. I made one to my siblings when I was barely out of college myself, and I've kept it. That's what real family does. I hit send, watched the little checkmark turn blue, and then I blocked her. My hands were still trembling, but for the first time in days, I felt this weird, quiet clarity, like I had finally slammed the door shut on the endless guilt tripping. A couple of hours later, my sister texted me. She must have heard from Dad or maybe seen something online, because her message was just a flood of crying emojis and then, "I hate that you're being treated this way. You've done so much for us. I don't know what I would have done without you." I could almost hear her voice breaking as I read it. Then my brother chimed in, short and to the point because that's who he is. "If Dad cuts you off, that's his loss, not ours." That one hit me hard, because for all the chaos swirling around me, for all the venom coming from Diane and the disappointment radiating from my dad, my siblings saw me. They remembered the nights when I kept the lights on. They remembered the promise, and they knew I kept it. It was the validation I didn't know I desperately needed. But here's the kicker. Blocking Diane didn't end things. If anything, it escalated them. Because suddenly, I wasn't just selfish in private. She made it her mission to paint me as the villain publicly. And the way she went about it, the audacity left me stunned. Within days, I found out Diane had gone beyond private messages. She was venting on Facebook, making veiled posts about certain people who abandon family and stepkids being treated like second-class citizens. My name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew exactly who she meant. And then the extended family started calling. Now it feels like I'm living in the middle of a Cold War. My dad hasn't spoken to me in a week. No calls, no texts, not even a passive-aggressive scene on anything I've sent. Just silence. It's almost worse than the yelling because at least when he was yelling, he was engaged. This silence feels calculated, punitive, like he's trying to make me squirm until I give in. My stepmom? She went nuclear. She unfriended me on every platform. Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn of all places. She wiped me from her digital universe like I was some stranger who offended her at a PDA meeting. Honestly, I don't care about being unfriended, but it's the symbolism that stings. The complete cutoff. The "you're dead to me" energy of it all. My step-siblings haven't said a word. Not to me, not about me. Radio silence. I can't tell if it's because they're genuinely uncomfortable or because they've been told to stay out of it. Either way, I know they know. Everyone knows. The whispers have spread. Because here's the kicker. It didn't stay contained. Oh no. Somehow, surprise, surprise, my aunts and uncles have gotten involved. And they have opinions. I've gotten calls and messages from relatives I haven't spoken to in months. Some of them dripping with faux sympathy, others blunt and judgmental. The consensus from that camp? I'm heartless. I'm turning my back on family. I'm hoarding money while children suffer. Do you know how insane that feels? To be branded selfish for keeping a promise? For literally paying tens of thousands out of my own pocket so my siblings wouldn't drown in debt. Something nobody ever did for me? When I point that out, when I remind them that Dad never lifted a finger for me, they wave it away. That's in the past. You're successful now. You should rise above it. It makes me want to scream, because what they're really saying is, your trauma doesn't count, your sacrifices don't count, your boundaries don't count. Just shut up and keep giving. The worst part is, I've started doubting myself. Not because I think I'm wrong. I know I'm not. But because the constant noise, the guilt-tripping, the twisted accusations, they wear on you. They seep in, and suddenly you're lying awake at night thinking, am I really heartless? Did I cross some invisible line? I keep circling back to one thing my mom said, though. She looked me dead in the eye the other night and said, "You did nothing wrong. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're selfish for honoring your word. Your father failed you. You didn't fail anyone." My sister texted me again this morning. Just a simple, "I love you. Thank you for keeping your promise." And my brother, in his blunt, no-nonsense way, added, "If Dad wants to lose you over this, that's on him, not you." Those two are the reason I made the promise in the first place. They're the reason I've been grinding, sacrificing, and planning all these years. And they're the reason I know deep down that I'm not the villain Diane wants everyone to believe I am. Still, the doubt lingers, because now I'm stuck here, staring at this fractured family, wondering if I really am the asshole. Am I wrong for drawing a line? For saying, I'll take care of the siblings I promised, but I won't shoulder the responsibility for kids who have their own father? Am I really the asshole for refusing to be guilt-tripped into fixing my dad's financial mess when he never once showed up for me? Or am I just finally standing up for myself after a lifetime of being told I wasn't enough? So Reddit, AITA for paying my siblings' tuition, but refusing to pay for my dad's wife's kids?